Hi everybody, it's JD from We Watch Shutter. Very, very special episode coming your way here. You've heard us talk about it, or I don't know, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're tuning in for the first time. If you are, awesome. Thank you. This past weekend, we had the distinct pleasure of hosting a double feature screening of Hellbender and Where the Devil Roams from the Addams Family. Toby Poser and John Adams were in attendance, and they hung out with us after the films and chatted with us and a bunch of the audience members for a good hour and a half after the film was done. And that's what we got here for you today. Our very first ever attempt at doing anything live like this and recording multiple people, we ran into some difficulties. I'm not a trained engineer. Michelle is not a trained engineer. So please, you have been gracious in the past. Just want to make you aware the audio on this is not the best audio we've ever had, but it's perfectly listenable. We think you're going to have some great insights from the Addams family about some of their films and their work. Please forgive my incredibly anxious, rambling interview style. I was very nervous, very anxious, and just very, you guys, a lot of people will tell you be careful about meeting people you admire, and all I can say is do it, because sometimes it turns out like this. From myself, from Michelle, I can't thank Toby and John enough for legitimizing what we were trying to do by coming out to be a part of it, and for making us feel, frankly, like kind of like we're maybe a part of the Addams family now. It was a great time. We had a blast with it. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Here you go. Well, hello everybody. That's how we start these. My name's JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
Who else is here with us?
I'm Toby.
It's Toby.
And I'm John.
And it's John, Toby Poser, John Adams, half of the Adams family from Wonder Wheel Productions here with us live. We're in room 2 at the Fargo Theater. We just got done watching Hellbender and Where the Devil Roams with a bunch of folks here from Fargo. How did you guys feel about the films? Big round of applause. Quite a few people here seeing these films for the first time, and I was very excited to be part of this. Michelle, how excited were you that I sort of forced this upon you?
I have been mostly panicking for at least a month. And when I was getting ready, I was shaking so badly that I could not grab any of my things. So then my delightful husband told me I had to take a Xanax, and I did. But I was shaking so badly while taking my Xanax that I bit it in half and had powder all over my mouth. So it's been a night.
It's been a night. Well, John, Toby, thank you so much for coming out here. Let me just jump right into the questions here. What the fuck are you guys doing here? Why did you, don't get me wrong, I love that you're here, but this is wild. Like, what made you say we gotta go to Fargo and watch our movies with these guys?
We got invited.
Oh, okay. That really
And
is
if we
easy.
get invited to go to Fargo, we're gonna go.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, thank you guys for being here. This has been something for me that I've wanted to do pretty much ever since I saw Where the Devil Roams, and we're gonna talk about that movie a little bit later on. But for anybody who might be listening at home, or anybody here tonight who doesn't know a whole lot about your background, you guys started making films as a family, was it 2012 when the first film came out?
We hit the road in 2010, and the first film was done by 2012.
And that was Rumble Strips, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides what you've seen tonight, has anybody here seen any of the other films from the Addams family?
Yeah.
Okay. What have you seen?
All of them except the shorts.
Okay. So you've seen Rumble Strips, you've seen Knucklejack, all that stuff. And Calvin, what all have you seen?
The deeper you dig.
The Deeper You Dig is nice. Where they made the transition to horror. We'll get into that. But Rumble Strips, we were talking with Randall Black earlier this week on KRFF here in town.
And you mentioned actually that was originally the plan was to make a horror film. Tell us a little bit about that and how that changed, and then how ultimately you came back around to horror.
Yeah, Rumble Strips was meant to be a really fucking dark Western ghost story. And where the kids get like brutally murdered and it's a big vengeance story. And so we started shooting it. We had modernized it because we were like, I don't know if we can shoot a Western our first time at the rodeo. And so we were traveling around the country for a year, homeschooling the kids. They were 6 and 11. We started shooting, and one day John just turns to me, he's like, Toby, I gotta tell you something. I'm like, what? And he's like, I just don't want to kill the kids. And I didn't want to kill the kids either. But give us a few years. And then
Right. So just to skip ahead a little bit, and then we'll bring it back. What was it that eventually did make you decide, no, I'm ready to kill my kids now?
Actually, it was Zelda who decided she was ready to kill us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Toby was working on a script. We were driving to soccer practice, and we were a little bored, me, Z, and Lulu, and Zelda says from the back seat, Dad, I think we should make a horror movie. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. I'd love to make a horror movie. Got any ideas? And she said, no, but I just know that I want to kill a bunch of grown men. Okay. And I said, I got a bunch of friends. I called my friends and I said, can Zelda kill you? And then we wrote a movie about killing these friends of mine, and it was great. And that was our foray into blood and violence, and actually the beauty and artisticness of horror movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, we didn't get a chance to see The Deeper You Dig tonight, but something I like about that film and Hellbender and Where the Devil Roams and everything I've seen from you guys is it covers certain well-worn ground, but there's a new spin on it. Without saying too much, it's a movie that to me it's not so much about revenge or justice as it is about closure. And I really appreciate that about that film. Is that something that you were aiming for specifically, or you know, what was the mindset going into Deeper You Dig?
Well, now we're going to use that because that's pretty smart. Thank you.
I started nodding when I heard the intelligence. I was like,
he does that. He does
telling us some smart things.
There's nothing like knowing what your film is about, like 6 years later.
Oh, fabulous.
You know, there's always an autobiographical undercurrent in our films. Mm-hmm. In this case, you know, Zelda was, I think, 14 when we shot that. And horror is always a great way to, what I like to call, give breath to a nightmare. And of course, as a parent, you're always just worried about what's going to happen to your kids. Lulu was off at college. So there was a little bit of that going on, just like, you know, the fears, the terrors you have. Also, I was going through a reproductive cancer while we were shooting that. So it's like, you know, those are just things that enrich your story, whether the audience knows it or not when they're watching it, but just as a writer, director, you use those things. It's also a great distraction, art, when you're going through something
Sure.
shitty. And so that's really, I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
something smarter to add.
I don't have ever anything smarter.
Well, as long as we get excellent conversation, I don't care if you answer my question or not. That's fine. I do appreciate that you brought you brought the one detail up, because it was something that I wasn't sure if we would be wanting to talk about today, but I did read in the New York Times, both of you have had experiences with cancer in your lives. I right now live with my mother, who's going through cancer treatment. And I'm just like, the way it has sort of, it finds its way in and starts to inform and change every element of your life. Like, in what ways specifically do those experiences inform your work, as especially like in The Deeper You Dig, when you were actually going through it?
Yeah, well, for the deeper you dig, I had endometrial cancer, so I was in the process of losing my uterus, and then I had to go back in again and lose my ovaries, and so meanwhile we're shooting, and it was like, boy, this is kind of like what the film is about. It's a woman losing her daughter, while I was losing that side of my. It's not the only side of my personality that I'm a mother, but it's a good one.
Sure.
And so that just was kind of an artful way of dealing with that, and feeling like, I mean, I wouldn't. It's not like I wanted that, but but it was a great way of just kind of taking power away from it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that I wouldn't have caught on to had I not read that article. But I think it's one of the things that I love about your work is once we learn a little bit more about you and how it's all been done. Like, I feel like being aware of how you work unlocks an ability to understand a lot of what you're doing, I think is what I'm trying to say. Familial elements obviously running through all of this very, very heavily. So we do The Deeper You Dig, we do Hellbender. Hellbender, 97% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It was the #1 horror movie of 2022 on their overall ranking. Obviously The Deeper You Dig got some notice, but what did that do for you so far as like putting you on people's radars and expanding your opportunities?
That was magic and just amazing for us. It brought us friends like you. That's really what it did. Is it opened up a community to us that we feel at home in. And that's really what it did, and it made that community. It just opened doors to us, and we're able to travel, and we're able to talk to like-minded people, or even not like-minded people, but we were really brought into a community fully with Hellbender.
Nice.
Yes.
You did that.
Well,
yes.
but we all do it, and it sounds cheesy, but we are here having a conversation, and these conversations are so important to us because Toby and I are going to get into a car tomorrow. We're going to drive back home, and we're going to talk about all the conversations we've had before the movie or in between, and all these things are really important because they feed, like, number one, our spirit and our spirituality, but they also really feed our storytelling. Do you know? Because we learn so much from these conversations. We learn what our similar horrors are, or our similar loves, or our similar, these things that we want to pepper our stories with. That's the way I feel about what Hellbender did. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'll just jump off from what you're saying in general. We're not Hollywood people. We don't make movies for Hollywood. And so the way that our movies are very kind of homespun and organic is exactly what it represents the same thing as talking to you guys. I mean, we use local people, we use our friends. We love coming out here. My answer to you, why I come out, is we want to make new friends, and
I appreciate that.
Who appreciate us, and we appreciate you.
You just said something really important, which is Hellbender also showed us that little people like us, and I don't mean to say this to sound weird, but we get to compete with Hollywood. Like, we actually are on the same platforms.
Right.
We're in the same newspapers, and suddenly we're like, oh, that's amazing. And that's the horror community that allows that to happen. Like, the drama community doesn't do that.
No.
I mean, I guess sometimes some tiny independent thing flies, right? But it's not as often as what can happen in horror. Like, if we look at some of the greatest movies in horror, you can go back to things like Phantasm, right? That was self-financed. It was a little independent thing where a guy got his friends, they shot a movie, and boom, it's competing with the biggest movies of that year. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it is something that also that I love about is something unique about the horror community. When they find something, man, they champion everything. So you can see it right now with just over the last year with movies like The Outwaters and Skinamarink and Late Night with the Devil and all of these movies that are getting theatrical releases that even 5 years ago they never would have had a chance to get them. Because people are saying, no, this is what we want. This is what we want to see. And it's great that everybody is bringing. You got to be on the last drive-in with Joe Bob, where they did an episode screening Hellbender. What was that experience like for you?
Fun as hell. I mean, really, that was just so much fun, and getting to work with the band too.
Yeah.
You know, they're taking one of our songs and ours are doing our version, of the theme. It was just so much fun, and he's. We were all very nervous.
Sure.
He's a smart guy.
I met, Michelle and I both got to meet Joe Bob and Darcy at a convention here a couple of years ago.
Darcy smells fantastic.
I'm
Just
glad you
for
said
the
it, 'cause
record.
I wouldn't have been able to get
For
away
the
with saying it.
record,
But
looks just.
no, I was dumbstruck, right? So this is a guy I used to watch on TV as a 14, 15-year-old kid. And so I totally understand. But anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please continue.
Yeah, he's whip smart. She's super sweet and so supportive. And
Yes.
everyone. She's just like a Buddha, right?
Yeah, she was great. The whole crew was great. John Brennan, as Toby said, was really fun to work musically with. But I'll tell you, I was very nervous. My voice was a couple octaves high because I kind of went back to watch a bunch of his episodes just to be like, what am I getting myself into? Because I know that he's pretty freaking smart. And I was like, and he can kind of silently kick your ass.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, oh my God, how's he going to kick my ass? He did kick my ass. and I didn't know how he was going to do it, and he did it, but I kind of survived.
It's a great episode. If you haven't seen it, it's on Shudder as well as the film itself, if you ever want to go back and revisit it.
May I recommend,
Absolutely.
if you're ever nervous again, bite on a Xanax. It will definitely help. It will not taste great, but then look, not shaking that much anymore. I highly recommend next time you're on that. Yep, just bite a Xanax in half on accident, and you'll feel better.
I've bitten on some Xanax.
So some things I want to talk about in Hellbender. First of all, the first thing that jumps to mind when I look back on that film, as just looks like it must have been just the most goddamn fun thing to do, is the scene where you and Zelda are vomiting blood on each other and clearly just tripping your asses off on whatever's in these maggots. First of all, I have to say I really appreciate, this is something that I saw in this movie, also something that I saw in Ari Aster's Midsommar. I appreciate a movie that presents a realistic presentation of what a hallucinogenic trip is like, with just everything sort of like swirling, like following the natural curves and anyway, if you've never done it, it's a pretty realistic explanation. Take my word for it.
We've bitten some Xanax and we've bitten some mushroom caps.
But you made that movie during the COVID lockdown, and it was just you and your few closest people. What was that experience like, and how much fun was it to just get out to go and do that while everybody else was wondering what the hell was going on with the world?
It was amazing. I mean, COVID obviously wasn't amazing for anybody, but us as 4 people, because we went to go see Lulu in Oregon, what was crazy was America was shut down, so we could film in places that we never could have entered with a camera or set up anything, but for example, we did not shoot in Yellowstone National Park. No.
They did not. No.
We
Absolutely
did not
not.
have to.
You would have if you could have, but you definitely
but we definitely
did not.
didn't.
Yep,
We
I gotcha.
didn't shoot in all these wonderful national parks. We didn't shoot in. Oh, sorry, Toby. But it was amazing, because everyone was locked down and we lived in a trailer. We just pulled a trailer, we lived behind the truck, and everything was empty.
And yeah, the blood scene was super fun because I didn't tell Zelda that I was putting little rice kernels in there, like maggots, and she was flipping out. She felt something crunchy in there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
The "Oh my God" line is real. Which is oh
That
my
is,
God.
it felt like a genuine reaction, and that's something that you get. And part of what's so great about your work is there is this, because you guys are family, and there's a familiarity in the way you perform off of each other. There's a natural chemistry there that, I'm thinking of the shot where Zelda is sitting on the porch and you come back with the box with the crown and everything in it. It feels like, I feel like if we didn't know you were family when we sat down to watch it, we might be able to guess that you were actually related. And I feel like from watching your films, I think you've done a fantastic job of making us as audience members. I don't know if everybody would agree, but I feel like I know you more than I should, frankly, for having just met you in person today. Like, there's a question I was moving to here, but just that familial element. Okay, I'm going to redirect because I have no idea where I was going. Michelle, save me.
I have a completely unrelated question.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been trying to figure out, as somebody who has seen multiple Addams Family films and is obviously a fan, there's always a certain vibe where I start watching something and I go, this feels like an Addams Family movie. And after seeing both movies back to back tonight, which was incredible, I think I've realized that it's a lot in the editing and that you, John, do the editing. And I was becoming very hyper aware of just how good it is and the color correcting that you do and the camera angles, which obviously is more direction, but that's you guys too. What was your background before doing Addams Family films? Did you have editing experience, or was that kind of a thing that you grew into?
First of all, thank you. That's so nice, right? That's really nice. No, I never had editing experience. It's funny, when we first decided to make a film, our first film, Rumble Strips, we were driving along and we had started to film some stuff, and I had just bought a program called Pro Tools. I loaded it up on my computer and there was like an icon that said Pro Tools, but I didn't know what the fuck to do with it. So finally I was like, I gotta start editing. And so I went to YouTube and I typed in editing. And up comes this kid from like some foreign country, you know. Today I'm going to teach you how to edit, you know, and I'm like, great. And so this kid, I wish I could find his site because he taught me how to go. I think he was 13 years old, and this kid, it was wonderful. And so that's how I learned how to edit, from some kid in a foreign country, and it was a great experience. And it's nice that I think if I had known how hard editing would be, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Well, I'm glad that you did wind up finding this kid and learning, because there's such a, I figured you probably had done other productions and learned from somebody, because it's just like artful the way that you do it, of lingering for a certain amount of time on a shot and making sure that this scene is oversaturated with this really heavy white background. And just especially watching on a big screen, I became like hyper aware of just how good it was. And then before we started recording, I went out and I was like looking at your IMDb and I was like, there's no credits listed before, but no, the IMDb is just wrong then. Like, I figured you had to have some background. So I think you did a great job of figuring out like what you wanted your image to look like, and perhaps that's why your films feel so unique, because you're not working from any other vision except your own.
That is so nice, and also that's what we love about horror, is that the horror like viewer is so open-minded to taking chances or new looks or strange editing, you know, and so it's just a great medium to be in for people like us, because we can take chances, and you know, someone doesn't come along and say, you can't do like dumb jump edits like that. Nobody does that. You know what I mean? Like the horror crowd's like, fucking fun. You know?
Yeah. As long as we're on some more technical issues, I have no idea what the family question I was pushing towards, but it kind of ties in with the editing issue. A big influence, I think, in the visual elements of what you do, I'm very much reminded of music videos, right? Especially you do a lot of montage work that I feel like does a really good job of establishing, you know, some transition of time and whatnot. Are there any like is that something that you did that you feel was like a conscious thing that you know you're taking influence from there, or do you are there favorite music videos you have that you think influenced you in any way, or?
No.
Okay.
To be honest, I never had MTV.
Okay.
And so I wasn't a kid that really grew up on videos. I grew up on like vinyl and cassettes, you know. And
Sure.
I was a kid that lived too far away to get the cable, so it was like I missed the. But what we love about the montage, like we always want to do montages. And Toby and I are always like, which part of the movie do we get to shoot the montage part, you know? Because we feel that like musical montages are a way to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also a way, music can say a lot of things that you don't want to like spend 20 minutes explaining and talking. And so when you make a montage, you can kind of get through a lot of dramatic things in a fun way, and it takes less than 3 minutes. So we love doing montages, and that's also what music does. That's what was great about Hellbender, was these guys were in a band. So just two wonderful women being in a band together already tells so many stories. It says so much. It says so much about their femaleness. It says so much about their mother-daughter relationship. It says so much about their, in a way, their political views or their whatever. It shows who they are just because they're playing punk rock and sitting in a basement with swinging light bulbs. You're like, I know these chicks. You know? I know these chicks, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And of course, then that brings us immediately to the role that music plays in your films. Obviously, a huge part of what you're doing cinematically. At what point does, like, I'm assuming music has been a part of your lives for a while, but like, which came first, the horror movies or the band, Hellbender? Like, how does that all tie together?
Well, I mean, John was always in bands in like New York City, and he and Lulu had a little band called the Hot Roses when she was about like 8.
Okay.
And she was just like freestyling poetry while he was playing.
Nice.
It was pretty awesome. Then she kind of quit the band because she wanted like bigger venues. But Zelda slipped right in and was like, I'm going to do this. And then Zelda started playing drums when she was 8. Maybe even 7, and then she and John had a band from California. Then I was like, wait a minute, I want to be in the band. So then kind of Hellbender kind of came to fruition. And actually, Hellbender the band preceded Hellbender the movie, because we were shooting a video for the band of our song Black Sky, and it just had all these witchy vibes, and we were like, we should be making a feature with a similar vibe. And that's how it came.
When you had the band Hellbender, did you have the idea of what a Hellbender is that's defined in the movie already, or did that come later and Hellbender was just like a really cool name?
Hey, no, that's such a great question. No, we knew we loved the name, but we were like, what? Now let's explore what it is, and so we came up with that mythology for Hellbender.
I love that, because a Hellbender is a mix between a witch, I always forget the second thing, a demon, and an apex predator, and that just puts such a good vision in your mind of like just a woman you don't want to fuck with. I love it so much.
A Hellbender also, if you didn't know, is it a reptile of some kind? I saw on your Instagram you had Save the Hellbender t-shirts.
Like a huge salamander.
Yeah, okay. Is that something you discovered after you named the band? Yeah.
After it was like the movie's almost done, and then someone's like, "Look, the Hellbender." It's like, what the?
It's like, but that always happens, you know what I mean? Like every time we come up with a movie title, we're like, this is the greatest title ever, and we're like so stoked about it. In fact, we just did a movie for Shudder called Hellhole.
Yeah.
And right when we wrapped it, we were shooting in Serbia, and right when it's over, you know, I'm like looking through some stuff. I'm like, oh, look up, you know, things like Hellhole, and I hit it, and a movie comes out on Netflix called Hellhole. Right when we were done. I was like, what?
Wait, what? Unreal.
Yeah,
Unreal.
that's the way it works.
Well, Where the Devil Roams, a fantastic title, a fantastic film. I want to transition into talking about this because this ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't get to see the film until January. and it floored me. I had to stop watching it halfway through and contact Michelle immediately and be like,
The messages that I was
have you
getting
seen
from this man, because he was like, "Oh, their newest movie came out. Oh my god. Oh my god. I had to take a break. Oh my god." Like, I was just getting these constant messages. I was like, I'm going to have to watch this movie because JD is going to have to talk to somebody about it, and it's going to be me, and he's going to try not to spoil it, and he's going to spoil it. So I was like, okay, I'm hopping on my laptop.
welcome.
I will watch Where the Devil Roams right now.
So I want to start right up top. You have that lovely opening, very vaudeville sort of sequence with the poetry reading. Who wrote that? The whole. You wrote that whole thing?
Poet.
Yeah, but I can't say the whole thing. There's lots of contributions, but I do like writing.
No, I'm a big fan of it. I have spent, frankly, an embarrassing amount of time trying to, especially the last few lines, just trying to interpret like where the title comes from and all of that. And I've got my thoughts about it, but no, I thought that was a fantastic way to open. This movie is steeped in like this. There's world building that you do here, right? Like, it's sort of post World War I, but to me it almost feels like there was a deliberate sense or an attempt to make it slightly out of place or out of time. Is that intentional? Like, it feels like it's supposed to be there, but maybe not.
This was a good time to talk, or we wanted to talk about America today. But it's not fun to talk about America today in today's terms. That's not fun, because it's not fun. It's easier to put it in the 20s, because in a sense, the 20s had a lot of similarities. And so it was great to put it in there. And that's why we wanted people with modern tattoos, and there was a lot of modern things that are in there that we wanted to be there to have that feeling, so that it was kind of like, wait, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, and where it really set in for me is in the sequence when Lulu finally appears and just hacks you pieces. Throughout that house, there's this old, but I saw modern light switches still on the wall in the back, and I'm like, look, I know this is low, but no. Well,
See, I told
Yeah,
you
but
it
here's
was
the
an
thing.
accident. I told you.
in my head, what I said was, look, I don't know a lot about CGI and that sort of thing,
That could have been tough.
but I was going to say covering those up seems like the kind of thing that would have been real easy to do, and I have to believe they did it on purpose and left them in. So go ahead and take that too if you need to.
He fixated
But
so hard,
Keep
and we had
explaining
arguments.
just a little more about why that was a good idea.
No, I just...
No, actually, we really did. There was conscious efforts. I know the light things because I'm the one editing, so I know I'm looking at all the things. And Trey would have been the person that I would have said, could you take all that shit out? And we did want to we wanted to play it loose with those crossover things, because it is important to play it loose, because we're not trying to make a period piece that's like, oh my God, this is so authentic to the period. That's not, that wasn't. We hear a lot of people say what you're saying, and we like that.
Yeah, it definitely just, it feels like I know it, but it's not quite right.
Like there's some tattoos in there that are.
And the music.
And the music,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and those are.
Tell me about the car, guys. Because we have the appearance of the Mustang in Hellbender, which is like immediately, all right, rad cars, I'm with it. And then like that 31 Chevy is like, it's a full-blown character in that film. Like the first time it appears, and you've got those deep rumbling bass lines in the music underneath it. There's just an intimidation there. Where did that come from? Where did you find that thing?
Yeah, that car is so sexy, and it belongs to John's dad.
Oh,
it's a
okay.
1931 Chevy, and it lives in John's dad's barn. And it runs. I mean, and sometimes we had to get out in the snow and push it. But it treated us quite well, and she's our star.
John's dad, who was the man sleeping in front of the store at the beginning of the film.
100%.
Yeah.
And the man in the store.
In the store in Hellbender. Yeah. In fact, it was just I watched Hellbender again about a week ago just because I was in a spot and I was like, I gotta remind myself why I'm doing this. And it was the first time I ever actually noticed, like, that looks surprisingly like John. And then I was, oh, of course it is.
Funny story about the Chevy, though, is that Chevy was my grandfather's Chevy, and then became my dad's Chevy, and then he wants us to have it, and so we were kind of messing around with it, and I was like, can I get the registration, because I want to, get some plates so that we can drive it. He's like, well, that's going to be a problem. And I was like, okay, we won't ask any more questions about that. And so we had there's a loop around. Luckily, we live in the country, so we basically if you notice, it's basically only driven in snowstorms because we're like, cops aren't going to be out there in snowstorms. So every time it snows, it's like, let's go. So it's kind of funny. Also, that's not true.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't hear anything.
There's a lot of things that aren't going to be true.
This is funny too about one day when it was not running. We had to look like it was moving, so we basically put the camera up so that Zelda and I were in the frame of the camera. John's making the car bounce, and Lulu took branches from a tree and is running by.
And it worked.
Hey, that's how they did it. God knows how long ago. That's classic Hollywood technique. Man.
Which scene was that, so that we can look for it? Because I will try.
It's the scene when you guys are looking out the window because we had to change who was running by with the branch because that's why there's only 2 people per windshield shot because somebody had to be running by with the branches and Lulu had to be shaking the car. So
perfect. I'm going to look for that because that's great.
So while I'm here, let me just say, take a moment. Brag up your kids for a minute. Tell us about what they're doing. What are they up to? Are they having a great time out going to college still? Brag about your children for a little while.
Lulu's gonna turn 26 next week, and she lives in Scotland. She's getting her master's in psychology at the University of Edinburgh. And Zelda just joined her overseas. Zelda's still an undergrad. She's gonna be 21 soon, and she's doing her junior year abroad, first in Paris, and then she'll be in the UK in the spring.
Nice, awesome.
And this is what's great about our kids. They teach us, far more than we teach them. And an example is, just to keep talking about Lulu, we had this band. And the reason Lulu started to gain this following was because I would just play riffs and Lulu would just say anything that came out of her mouth. And for a 7-year-old, the shit that came out of her mouth was incredible. And one of the reasons that she quit the band was because she didn't like how the crowd was older. She was like, I don't know, this crowd's kind of old. But it was funny because she was really off color, but beautifully philosophical, right? Remember how it was really neat, and her humor really comes across.
If you haven't seen Hellhole, it is, I think, far and away the funniest thing they have done so far as the horror world goes. Take a moment to check it out.
I do have a question. Are there any recordings of this Lulu band that existed?
There are because people filmed us because people were filming us, and we're gonna have to find that some of those because they were wonderful. And actually, I know there's a bunch of recordings of her singing because we have them on the X's and things like that. So you know what?
I absolutely need some of those.
Job
please.
taken.
Yes, awesome.
Right.
So then, to switch over, talk about Zelda for a little while. One of the things that I love the most about my first time through Where the Devil Roams is I didn't even register that she hadn't spoken until Tips tells us that she doesn't speak. Obviously, again, you can't speak for her entirely, but what are her ambitions so far as doing more? She has such an expressive face. She can say so much without saying anything at all. But I know she also has spent a lot of time specifically, John, behind the camera, doing a lot of the actual cinematography. Is this something that she's just consuming en masse, or are there certain things that she's very much looking forward to doing that you're aware of?
What do you think, Toby?
I think, I think when she finishes college, it'll be exciting to see what she does because she has so many talents, and she is she does love being behind the camera. She takes great photography. I mean, she's a great photographer. She's modeling a lot right now, and so while she's at school, so that's kind of exposing her to a lot of artists and creative people. And I know video is a big part of what they do now. It's not just like still photography. So we'll see. She may be making films with us, without us. She, I think, probably will want to do more acting.
Sure.
You know, when she gets out, I think the world is her oyster.
I think so too.
I think one cool thing about Z is, one piece of good news is today she called me and said, "Dad, I'm gonna buy bass." What kind of bass should I buy? Electric.
That's
So
fabulous.
That's really great news.
So,
But one thing I love about Zelda's trajectory is people saw her, they've seen her since the beginning, and agents have approached her and things like that, and they've sent her like scripts, and it's really not, it's a huge compliment to us that she reads them and she's like, I don't know that this is what I want to do. I kind of like the four of us. I like how we do it. Like, I don't really want to deal with this.
Sure.
And I love that about her. I think that she could, but I do really respect that she's offered things and she just says, I don't think that I want to do that. That looks
Sure.
like something I don't want to do.
yeah, and that actually brings, because Hellhole, now your latest film, is the first production that you've done without the girls. I mean, obviously they were involved a little bit in the writing and that sort of thing, but so far as the actual production, it was just the two of you on set working with a different crew and cast. Is that correct? And so, what after you've made 7 films in this mold with just a family team, what was that experience like for you guys, not having that input there on a regular basis? What new challenges and experiences did that create for you? But also, in what ways do you feel maybe it opened you up a little bit?
Yeah, it was a really different but wonderful experience. So when we were doing Joe Bob, when we were doing The Last Drive-In, the producers, they're called Not the Funeral Home, but it's Matt Ladies and Justin Martell. They kind of said, well, hey, what do you have cooking? Any scripts maybe we could get on with you? And so this idea came up about these man camps in the Canadian oil fields and what lives under the earth. And they're like, sounds good. And the next thing you know, we're like writing a script and then we're shooting in Serbia. So we didn't produce it or have the funding behind it. Shudder has been wonderful from the get-go. They really made it all happen. And shooting in Serbia was just wild. I mean, John and I love to travel, so that was really exciting. But I think what made it amazing was the cast and crew were absolutely wonderful and lovable. Now, when I say crew, we're going from like anywhere from 1 to 4 of us to about 50 people, including
Right.
the drivers and everything on any given day, which was pretty wild.
Sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things we realized or learned from working with a crew and under kind of the rules of like the industry standards of how you make a movie was, in order to kind of get that many people to do something together and to try to survive and make art together, you kind of got to follow rules that are kind of set in place. And one of the things that we grew up, the 4 of us, making movies together was no rules. It was like there's no 180-degree rule, there's no, any rules. And so that's what I learned. To answer your question about what did we learn, I learned like, oh, okay, that's just an entirely different way to make a movie. And it's not better, it's not worse, it's just very different. And so now, as we go back and we make our Addams Family films again, because we're back, the 4 of us actually working together, we can take those lessons that we learned, apply the ones we like, and keep building on the ones we like about how we make movies.
Do you think it's something that you see yourself doing more of in the future, or is it sort of we went out there and we saw what it was like, we're going to come back and do our own thing again now? What do you see in the future for those sort of projects?
I think there's room to do that sometimes, but I think, and I won't speak for you, but I think I think we really like doing things the way we do them. I know, I'll just speak for myself. I'm most comfortable in our little intimate setting.
Sure.
Even with Where the Devil Roams, which had almost a cast of 80, if you include the actors, that's still, we're kind of doing it. That is our total DNA. I think there's room to do other things, and certainly not against it, and I've learned so much being on that set, and I think I'll be better the next time
Sure.
I do that. I mean, meaning I'll be more comfortable and feel more confident in that kind of larger arena. But I don't think, I guess I should put it this way, I don't think we'll ever stop wanting to do things the way we kind of do
Sure.
the Addams Family
Sure.
joint.
Yeah, absolutely. John, you feel kind of the same there?
Yeah, I really love the way we work. I am doing this for joy. I'm not doing this for fame or money, and so I have joy sitting with my parents. Actually with my parents.
Yeah.
Sitting with my parents, sitting with my kids, sitting with my neighbors, sitting here. Again, I'm always going to revert back to the same thing, which is I want to have joy and peace.
Yeah.
And I love big Hollywood movies. I love to go watch them. And again, I also have to throw it out to the horror community that allows this kind of art to exist. Like, we can do this kind of art as a family, and there's people out there that kind of understand the dynamic of what we're doing. So it's fun. So we're all having fun together.
Sure.
So I think you can kind of tell what my answer is. And now, I'll say one other thing that we have time as a family.
Sure.
Hollywood, in order to have time, they'd have to have hundreds of millions of dollars, because time is money out there, and we don't have money, but we got time. So our time is worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Well, and I believe I remember from an interview I read something about the ability to just like, oh, we just had dinner and now we're going to go out and shoot a scene for the movie, right? It's
Yeah.
like we got a few hours, let's go get something done. There is a freedom in not having all of those studio attachments for sure.
Oh, definitely. But I'll just say something real fast too. We probably wouldn't have shot Hellhole because it takes place on a fracking site, you know, and so this shows you like the beauty of these guys coming in and saying, hey, we can help you do this.
Sure,
and,
sure.
And we did it, and
Yeah.
we made it happen, and we also got to work with an outstanding friend we'll have for life in Todd Masters,
Nice.
whose company Masters FX made the monster. In
Oh,
Hellhole.
nice.
And he's just a mensch and the coolest guy in the world, and was out there working with
Can
us.
I say thank you for practical effects? Thank you.
The effects were so good. Oh, man.
Serbian team.
Before we move on, JD,
No, go ahead.
I do just want to say that as much as I love the Family Collective and everything you create, I do like finding a random Toby Poser appearance in a place I did not expect, because I watched Etheria Film Festival when it was on Shudder, and I went, that is Toby Poser. Where's the rest of the family? It's just Toby? This is just Toby, and I was so excited. So yes, Thaw was fantastic. It was fun because you were not any of your Addams Family characters, but you still felt like a little Maggie. Like, there was a little bit of Maggie in there, and I was like, oh, that's just delightful. So I do hope that we get to see like just random appearances sometimes, like a little cameo here and there, because that was, I got a little bit giddy when I went, Toby, I didn't know Toby was in this. So if you haven't seen Etheria Film Festival, absolutely check it out, especially this year. Everything was so good. So yeah, I just had to say, like, you were fantastic in Thaw. Yeah.
Yeah, and so looking forward then, this is a question that I've been wanting to ask ever since I heard the words. Please tell me more about Mother of Flies.
Yes. You want to do the honors?
No, I want you to do the honors. I love that.
Mother of Flies is about a girl played by Zelda who has a terminal illness and goes with her father, played by John, to the woods to see a witch doctor, played by me, as a last-ditch effort to fucking survive.
Sure.
But careful what you wish for, you know, and so it's shot a lot outside. I would say it shares some DNA with Hellbender, in that I'd say it's more sorceress.
Okay.
It's about necromancy, and it's about life and death, and covers some subjects that are dear and personal to us, but through a very sorcerous lens. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah, this goes back to your original comment about, like, we love making movies that are basically documentaries about where we are in life.
Sure.
And where we and our experiences in life. And one of the things that we finally kind of feel comfortable to tackle and to talk about is both our cancer experiences. And they are horror movies, but you don't want, like, if you made a drama about it, it would be like, oh my God, this is so, who wants to watch that? But if you make it a movie about necromancy and like a father and a daughter and covered in blood, and it suddenly becomes really something fun to talk about, and so that all of us are affected by cancer, so all of us can feel a part of the conversation.
Sure.
And you can bring up really hard subjects and make them talkable, if that's a word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of magic in this.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Obviously, Hellbender and Where the Devil Roams all are both playing in sort of a folk horror realm, which is I love witchy movies, and especially like woodsy bog witch kind of things. I mean, yeah, I'm not, if it's your thing, cool, but a Hot Topic witch is not my vibe. I need somebody who's nerdy and digging down there in the moss.
Controversial over
and
here.
That's but
Hot Topic is where you get all the good Disney jewelry, though. So
I mean,
Well, Hot Topic's a great place to start. You just gotta get that shit and you bring it to the mud.
I believe right.
You know,
I
it looks
believe-
great, like right out of the store, then you
Douse it in mud and suddenly,
For
here
sure.
we go, let's make a movie.
But yeah, so and what I love about that is, so like with Where the Devil Roams, you're talking about how we can use these movies to engage those painful subjects in ways that maybe allow us to say and deliver more message because we're not so caught up in the seriousness of it. That's one of the things that drew me so much to Where the Devil Roams, is like, this is clearly a movie about family, like through the eyes of trauma. Right, like each one of these people has had, like we know Seven's experience, we know Maggie's experience. We don't have a fucking clue what happened to Eve, that she can't speak. We don't know, is this like she's just never spoken? Did something happen? But these are people who are traumatized to a degree where they will go to extreme lengths to hold on to what little they have. And I think in a sense of, like you were saying, talking about like using it as a reflection of our modern situation, I really enjoyed that. And the thing about that movie that I loved is I love the way once it gets there, you just desaturate everything. Because it's black and white now. It's all survival now. Nothing, like in ways morality goes out the window. A lot of that stuff is like, this is what we have to do now. And I thought that was super effective. Of course, and then it gives you the opportunity to just give that big reveal. A side note for the big reveal, every time I've seen this film, I've watched it on Tubi.
You got the censor.
I've seen more. I saw
no
more John
idea.
tonight than I was ever expecting to see.
You're like,
Wait a minute, why?
I
did
was
put
like,
this
well,
in there?
you were talking when we were talking with Randall Black earlier in the week. You mentioned that Zelda wasn't on set that day, and I was like, why would she have not been on set that day? It looked like it was perfectly tame, and it's like, nope, no. There it is, right there. That was a little more than I was expecting, but it's
I
fantastic.
was like, how did I forget this
I know.
particular? Okay.
But and I think that's also not to ramble and rant a bit of my own, but at least what I value as a horror fan is, I think if we're real honest with ourselves, a lot of us become horror fans because we've been through some shit, right? And we like to be able to relate those things without necessarily getting into the real heavy side of it. And I think you guys do a really, really good job of presenting those sort, like, if I had seen Rumble Strips and then somebody said they made a horror movie, I don't know that I would have been like, oh really? I love Rumble Strips. I love what you guys did before then. But the way you incorporate that family aspect into your stuff is phenomenal, and it's why I wanted to be here. and thank you for joining us. I don't have much else that I want to talk about. I imagine Michelle does, and then if you guys have anything that you want to talk to these folks about, we're going to give you an opportunity as well. Michelle, go ahead.
I don't have a ton to say. I've just enjoyed being here, but I did also just want to say, Toby, thank you so much. I have a terrible mother-daughter relationship, and watching you and Zelda feels healing to me, of just those healthy relationships, especially. I mean, the porch scene sticks out to me too in Hellbender. There's just something so naturally caring about both of you, and it feels cathartic to watch that. So
Well, these arms are made for hugging and loving, so.
I might have to get a Toby poser hug then, but I will try not to cry on you.
Do get one.
Okay, I will.
I got one when she first walked into the room, and I'm telling you, he's right.
I went
one.
to handshake, and I went, oh, did I just miss out on a hug opportunity? Because I know, but then
I tell you wanted one. So
no, I know, and I didn't know. I was in that did I just miss my opportunity to hug? So yes, I will hug you.
Actually, one other thing I did want to, and it's such a weird random detail now, but because we were just talking about John's exposure to the world, one thing that I do love, and it's such a small moment. Different scene. Different scene entirely.
Can you two please fight? I would love to watch this.
There's a spirit and an attitude here. There's a brief moment at the beginning of this film where you both are nudie patootie, just running off into the world. And I guess what I want to say is obviously for men that's a little bit easy. I mean, it's still, you're talking about your body being exposed, but there's a little. For you, Toby, was that something that was written in, and you had, or did you put that there because you wanted to make that? Because I know you've mentioned in interviews before that part of what brought us into this is that your acting career was kind of slowing down and that sort of thing. And we all know that happens, especially for women as they age, way worse than it does for men. Was that something that you were deliberately trying to say something about being an older woman in filmmaking, or was it just a fun thing that happened?
Both.
Okay.
It definitely just was fun for the characters. They're born naked in there, and they end naked.
Sure.
And so it was important to bookend it that way. And I'm so glad you're talking about this. Nobody ever talks about it. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm also naked on screen. And I, even my family song, they were just talking about John. I was like, I'm naked too.
Right. Yeah, it's
all 9 of my siblings. It's just so weird. But let me just tell you, I definitely do want to. I'm 55, and it's important for me to represent women of my age, of my build. All women are wonderful. And I happen to be my kind of woman, and I want to. I'm not ashamed of sharing that with the world.
Yeah.
You don't see it often.
Well, and what I can tell you this is, and I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I'm sure it has to. I'm sure it has to help. No,
Somebody's gonna be embarrassed.
I'm sure it has to help that obviously you're working with family and people you're close with. But one thing that has also got to be helpful is, I'm assuming that on Rumble Strips, because the girls were both so young, 11 and 6, that John, you did most of the photography on that when Toby was on screen. There are shots in that movie of you where, if you didn't know anything, there were moments where I was like, I don't know who's running this camera, but he loves this woman. It's incredible photography, and it's just clearly this sort of muse-oriented kind of stuff going on, and I was very struck by that.
That's so nice of you to say.
You're very welcome.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
But no, it's just another level of that. Something about it being a family operation allows you guys to go places other people just can't go, and it allows us to come in ways that other people can't welcome us in. And thank you for everything you've done for us, and we very much look forward to seeing what you're doing in the future.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Who would like to? Anybody got some questions? Anything you'd like to ask?
Into a microphone.
Oh, it's okay. Michelle's gonna go be the hostess with the mostest.
Oh no, you're gonna have to come to me. I'm sorry. The way that these chords are set up is very aesthetically pleasing, but not technically great.
Hello.
So with Hellhole, I see obviously influences of John Carpenter's The Thing. Are there particular filmmakers, directors, or films that you feel have really influenced you and both of you as filmmakers?
That's awesome. Yes. Toby, how about you? Or do you want me to answer first?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, yeah, you're right. So The Thing is a masterpiece. And so you don't try to copy The Thing, you try to blow it, like we like to say, for us, Hellhole, we blew a sloppy kiss at it. You know, because you don't try to like cover the Beatles and you don't try to cover John Carpenter, right? But I love, like, I was just looking, you know, it sounds silly sitting in Fargo saying it, but watching Fargo is also a perfect movie. That, to me, that movie is perfect. It's amazing.
It
And,
was filmed in Minnesota.
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
can
yeah.
tell. I'm like, when we rolled in here, I'm like,
None
Yeah.
of this was
We're
filmed
not
here.
bitter about it at all.
Right.
If you're still here tomorrow, go see the wood chipper. Though we do have the
wood
wood
chipper.
chipper from the movie.
but think also, you know,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
we love independent movies, so like I could just rattle off so many. Like we love going to festivals. Whenever we get in a festival, we go so that we can watch everyone else making movies because they just turn us on so much. I think I'll answer for me. What I love about any filmmaker is if I can tell that whatever they're doing is genuine, that their tone is genuine. You know, whether it's funny or whether it's scary or so. That's kind of what I look for when I watch. Is it just honest and genuine, if that makes sense? Because I don't have any like filmmaking heroes per se.
And I like film. I love films that challenge me to love or hate the characters. I really like complex characters who, one minute I'm just like, God, I can't stand this character, but why do I love him or her so much? Whether it's Bad News Bears or like the Babadook, you know, a very complex character, and the mother who has a really difficult kid, and so I love a movie like the Babadook. I can talk about ad nauseum because it's the character's so complex.
And we just watched the TV show. Like sometimes TV shows blow you away with their artisticness. Like we just watched Ripley. Did anybody see Ripley, the black and white Ripley? Isn't it incredible?
Beautiful.
Yeah, just beautiful. Every single frame is gorgeous. You know.
Anybody else have some questions? Donovan.
Donovan, you gotta stand up. I'm sorry.
So you mentioned like a future project like Mother of Flies, I think is what you said. So what I'm curious about, I imagine you got like several ideas that you integrated throughout the movies. What does it kind of look like when you're for sure like in the process of this is going to be our next movie?
It's a great question, Donovan. Often we just have to just hit the ground running, like because we rarely have a full script made. Often we're discovering the film as we're shooting it, and so if we have an idea and it just kind of turns all of us on, something clicks and we just say, okay, that's it, and we just start doing it. Like for Where the Devil Roams, we were on the festival circuit for Hellbender when we were traveling across the country in our car. We're just starting to gather clothing, and then by November when we got home, it's like, well, today's the day. Let's just get that Chevy on the flatbed until it's ready to run, and let's just start shooting.
And that's again another thing that you can do when you work the way that you guys do. It's just like, you know what? No, we're gonna do it now. We're not gonna wait till we get approval from up above or whatever. We're just gonna go do it.
Approval from down below.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
It's a quick one.
Trey always likes to say that we love to paint with the camera because that's true. It's fun to get out and start shooting and start learning about what the story is that you're really telling. You know, because we'll shoot and then we'll go home and we'll look at it and it'll teach us something. So that then a lot of the time we'll shoot, come home, look, and then be like, all right, we didn't get it right, but now we understand what we're doing. So let's just go back to the same spot at 3 o'clock again, and we'll start and we'll do it right this time. And sometimes that happens like 5 or 6 times, you know, and it's okay.
And you actually just mentioned a name there that reminds me of something I did want to ask quickly. Tell us a little bit about Trey Lindsay and how you met Trey and what that working relationship is like. He does a lot of your effects and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah. Trey changed our lives because I asked a mutual friend, do you know anybody who can do effects? Because when we started to do The Deeper You Dig, we wanted to try to do some things that we just couldn't do. And he introduced us to Trey. We went out for pizza with him, and it just struck us what a wonderful human he was. And then when we got home, he sent us a quick clip of him cutting his own head off. And we were like,
sold.
Well,
Trey
we can't use that
Adams.
guy. He's dead. So
It was
bummer.
freaking great.
That's fabulous.
And he is always, it's like Todd Masters, but Trey especially, he's a wonderful human being. He always says yes, and he's just a great companion. Like, he's great to sit next to.
Oh yeah, he always just brings joy with it. He loves what he's just a big kid. And you go down to where he like works in his basement, and it's just like, oh my God, this is so cool.
Awesome. Any other questions? Pear, come on down here.
Oh, you're doing it now?
Well, he's on this side.
I was gonna
Alright,
make him
so
walk.
I heard you guys mention Phantasm, and I just got the box set. But my question was, so like in the first one, they did a direct homage to the John Gabar, the hand in the box thing. Has there been anything that you've liked so much that you had to slip a direct homage into any of your movies?
Such a great question. Toby, I see your smile, so go Toby.
Well, with Frankenstein, with Where the Devil Roams, the beginning with the MC coming out, if you have a heart condition or whatever it is, So that was sort of an influence, definitely for the top of Where the Devil Roams.
But yes, we are always slipping, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously.
Sure, yeah.
Somebody just,
Saw that.
did you see that? Somebody just pointed out that a shot from Where the Devil Roams is almost the exact same shot as the shot of Nosferatu walking up the steps. And so it was just like, and that one was unconscious, and I looked at him like, oh my God.
That blew me away. I saw the post about it, and I had just assumed it was a deliberate thing, and I was like, that's super cool. And then to find out, no, it just kind of came out in the wash like that. That's awesome.
But what's funny is, obviously, that image had such an impact on me that I remember setting it up. And this was another shot that we didn't shoot, where we shouldn't be shooting. So we won't even say that one. But
Statute of limitations
it was so
hasn't run
important.
out.
We just kept shooting it until the shadows got right. And then this person just 2 weeks ago points out, like,
Oh, it's so cool that you paid homage to that. And it was like, holy shit.
And in The Deeper You Dig, Phantasm, which goes way back to John.
Oh, yeah.
Like in those in The Deeper You Dig, there's stuff that looks like.
I play the tall man for a second.
Angus?
Yeah,
Nice.
I walk like the tall man into a scene, and it's just, that
Beautiful.
stuff is great.
And here's how we know that you guys are very good people, because instead of being like, yes, the Nosferatu shot, that was completely deliberate. You're like, oh my God, that's so cool. And you didn't take credit for it.
Right?
Instead, you're like, whoa, guys, that's pretty sweet.
But we're terrible people because we are going to take credit for some of the smart things that were said here too.
Oh, that's okay. You can have them. I did notice in Where the Devil Roams, there are a few references to your own work. There's a shot where one of the carnival people wears that sort of like weird, almost like bunny mask.
Yes.
That is in Hellbender. Also, the clown makeup is this very thick grease paint makeup that's very reminiscent of makeup that you wore in, was it halfway in The Deeper You Dig? Yeah, and so I like, was that deliberate or just something like? Tell me about that clown makeup. I gotta know about. Like, I've never seen. Like, is that something you took from somewhere or something you came up with on your own? That very thick, chunky clown makeup.
Go ahead.
No, please.
Some of the stuff. We've discovered like flour and water work great. And maybe a little like tissue paper, or even you know, like paper towels or toilet paper, and then
Sure.
and sometimes a little hodgepodge as
Mhm.
well.
Nice.
Yeah.
But-
But we found an Easter egg in Hellbender, right? That we were like, oh my God, this is
Oh.
an Easter egg for Mother of
That
Flies.
we planted, like, we
the
didn't realize
thorns.
that we planted an Easter egg in Hellbender for Mother of Flies that's gonna be coming out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Mother of Flies is the one you're working on right now. Like that's the next project. Are you able to say that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, two films,
Slug.
and Mother of Flies.
Excellent.
Yeah, we kind of, we came home from Serbia, and the girls wanted to do things, and so we put we did 2 movies. 'Cause
Awesome.
It was just so fun.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Who's gonna stop you, John? Who's gonna
I
stop
will.
you?
Do you have rough release dates, ideas at all? Or can you not tell us the rough release dates?
Slug will be done first. We still have to shoot a little bit of stuff for
Okay.
Mother of Flies.
Okay, I was kind of curious, just like what's the timeline
You
of stuff coming out?
you got a plan for a
Yeah,
for
do you
like
have a
premiere?
venue? Maybe Fargo.
Ooh, Fargo would be pretty badass.
We did air or show Mike Flanagan's first film, Oculus,
Oh.
here. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
That's cool.
you worked on Fall of the House of Usher. Flanagan actually, I fucking love Mike Flanagan. He has a strong connection to
Siegel
this
is so
theater.
pretty.
He Tony Tilton, one of his professors from when he was in film school, is I believe originally from Fargo and came back here. He had the world premiere of Absentia, his first feature-length film here. They were here for the film festival a while back. Anyway, that's just random stuff that you did. I'm just babbling now.
well, should
But,
we
uh,
go back
we
to the
would-
audience?
we
Mike's
would-
a great person.
We would love to maybe get a chance to do some more premiere
to come
screenings. We would love to have you back anytime.
We have so many people who are very upset that they missed this. So if we arranged a date that was far enough out that everybody could cancel their stuff, I 100% would make that happen. I will lose money on it actively. I tell JD all the time, I'm like, our podcast is not profitable. We are hemorrhaging funds. If we had a board of directors, they'd be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, this is my fun hobby to keep me sane. But I will hemorrhage funds for you guys to go back.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're working hard on these two, and
Is
we
it-
can't wait to
Awesome.
get them sizzling out there.
Other
We have
questions?
At least one question.
Yeah,
Abby.
Abby.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for telling us about your kids and the 8-year-old thing. So our kid helps us with our hunt, and he's always the first one to want to dump the blood. And Mom, we're going to cut the head off of that. So knowing that your kids are grown and successful and not serial killers is amazing.
Well, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. True. My second question is, being a family and that type of dynamic, I would imagine that you all play pretty well off of each other, but are there times that you have differences as to like how something should play out?
Yeah, thanks, Abby. First of all, horror is healthy, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Feels so bad for people who just bottle all that shit up.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're happy people.
Yeah. But so we just have this very democratic thing where we just, if we have 3 or 4 different points of view, we shoot it 3 or 4 different ways. It just works for us. And then when the editing is happening, whatever feeds the story best rises to the top. But we have like difference of opinions, and then it's just like, okay, well then we're just gonna have to do it, you know?
It's so much quicker to shoot what everybody wants than to argue about it.
That's genius.
And yeah, so it's really, and we're all shooting digital, all the cars get erased when you're done anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
That does beg an interesting follow-up question: is are there any fun stories about big arguments that just kind of were out of control? Things that you just really banged heads about, couldn't come to a consensus
We're not
on?
a big arguing. I would love to tell you something.
Oh, you're a healthy family? Must be nice. Brag more about your healthy family dynamic. How many Christmases were ruined because one person left?
Don't think we have a healthy dynamic. We've gone through a lot of like, why do you let your kids call you by why does your kid call you John? Because it's my fucking name.
'Cause it's my name.
You know? So there's been a lot of like, you don't know how to raise your kids, and it's pretty cool.
I think you're doing a pretty
Yikes.
great job, at least from my perspective. I mean, I don't know anything about kids, so I don't got any.
The other line was always like, is that your kid up in that tree? And it's like, is she hurting you? You know?
Oh, anybody else? Questions? Pear's got more questions. Come on down, Pear. I'm just gonna stay and I'm
Question
gonna hear
better
Mike
be as
stand.
good as the last one.
All right, so this is a really technical question.
Oh,
So
sure.
I noticed at the beginning of Hellbender, the character was using a 1961 Lamont revolver. It's a nine-chamber ball and cap from Civil War Confederate use. Why did she choose not to unload the buckshot from the secondary barrel when she ran out of normal bullets?
Because the witch had put a spell on the gun that made it so that the shooter could just do anything she fucking wanted.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because we thought about that. And that's the answer.
What the fuck just happened?
I'll tell you something about those guns, and it's
Yeah.
great that you know exactly what that gun is, because those guns were bought, they're exact replicas from the Civil War. You nail it right on the head, and that's the one she has is for the Confederates, and the Yankee gun was much slimmer and more kind of, I don't remember the names of them, but that was a big, heavy, great-looking gun. And it had all the weight and everything. And that was for the first horror movie that we really did called The Hatred, where Zelda wanted to kill a bunch of men. So it was set in the Civil War.
Yeah, it's probably Colt Navy. Do you,
Yeah,
I
that's
asked
right.
that
That's what it
because-
was.
Yeah, I asked that because I have that exact same Lamont.
Very
Replica.
cool. But
It's
yeah, she
in
was
mine.
shooting the big, heavy Confederate gun.
Yep.
Yep.
I sat beside Pear, and the second the credits rolled, he turned to me and went, "Okay, you know what bothered me?" And immediately told me about the gun, and I went, "Oh, okay, so you hated it then, I guess."
Oh,
so when he
that's
comes up and goes,
fantastic.
"Okay, I have a question about the beginning," I knew it was going to be about the gun.
Good. We love getting rattled.
I'm glad that there was a reasoning for it.
Anyone else? Questions?
I just want to ask.
Yeah.
Do you have any current films that you
Wait, don't ask until you have the microphone,
Yeah.
Calvin.
Get on the microphone, Calvin.
By the time you get up here, you'll be done with your question.
Are there any films right now that you're really looking forward to seeing upcoming that might be something, or have you seen any films that have just really sparked creativity?
Yes. I'll mention two I've seen and one I'm excited for. Loved The Devil's Bath and Exuma. So both, like folk horror films, one out of South Korea, one out of Austria. And then I'm really stoked about Eggers Nosferatu because I'm a vampire junkie.
Excitement.
Yeah, that's a great. We can't watch movies anymore without sitting there and being like, "Oh, look at the way that shot. Look at the way this is shot. Look at the sound on this. The music in this is really smart. This, that, this." It's so crazy,
Sure.
How we know that it's a really good movie is when we stop talking about it, and then suddenly it's over, and you're like, "That was fucking great."
Yeah.
I have to admit, two movies affected. No, there's been three movies that affected us on the festival circuit. One was called The Sadness. Did anybody see?
Oh
The
my
Sadness?
One of my
God.
favorite movies.
I won't watch it again.
He will never
I won't-
watch it.
I won't watch it again.
I have
Probably
shown
smart not
so
to.
many
Jesus.
friends.
As it
movie is
unfolds,
so
you're just
weird.
like, "Oh my god!"
Like
Yeah.
I don't regret that I saw it, but I will never.
I have
watch
the
it again.
special Blu-ray. It's great. It's beautiful.
Okay, well, if you like that one, this is a different kind of supreme or ultra violence. Is The Golden Glove? Ooh,
I don't know
gotcha.
this. Okay,
Somebody
the Golden
write that
Glove.
Now
down.
look,
for me.
if you
Okay.
watch it, I didn't recommend it because you're gonna be like, "That guy is sick." You
That's
know?
my
And-
That's
favorite
Michelle's.
kind of movie.
Oh,
Michelle
well, then go
lives
watch
in
The
that
Golden
room.
Glove. It's
Yeah.
incredible what they do. And so what happened was we were in Telluride Horror Show, me and Zelda, and we asked the programmers, like, "What's a good movie for us to watch?" And they're like, "Oh, what kind of movies?" We like, "Oh, we like violent movies." And they're like, "Go watch The Golden Glove." And we sit down, and if anybody watches it, you'll be like, "Oh my God, this guy sat with his daughter through this movie." It's immediately, I turned to Zella and I was like, "Should we leave?" And she was like, "No way." And so where the Devil Rooms
is very much affected by the tone of the Golden Glove, because it's like, it is horrible, but it's artistically horrible. So it isn't gratuitous. It's by the time it's over, you're just like, wow, that was intense, and it really felt real. And then you smell like cigarettes and schnapps.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's how I felt about The Sadness. Is I felt like they earned everything they went for, right? Like it didn't feel. It didn't feel just exploitational all the way through, but man, Michelle has a much stronger stomach for the really extreme stuff than I do.
JD's movie he will never again watch was a Serbian film.
I will not.
And
I haven't watched that one.
okay,
don't.
and I went, I don't think it's that bad, and I went and rewatched it and I went, oh yes, it's worse than I remember. So like that,
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, no, I got bored Saturday afternoon. I watched a Serbian film again.
Made me
And then
wanna,
I went, oh yeah, no, that is pretty awful.
yeah, it made me want to sandpaper the inside of my skin. It was, oh my god.
Toby has a good hardcore. What do you call it when you advise someone to watch something?
Recommendation?
Yes, thank you. That we saw at the festival. It's called Megalomania.
Oh yes, great movie.
I love that.
Interesting, weird.
When I watched that, I went, this is going to wind up on those kinds of extreme horror lists, like a Serbian film and Salo and all of those, because I was like, this fits that realm where it's literally just like trauma upon trauma upon trauma.
But what was fun was the way it starts out. I was about to walk out because I was like, I don't need to watch this kind of thing. And then they turned it just at the right time, and I was like, ooh, that's weird that we're gonna do it like this. And so it was interesting.
You see the coffee table?
Yes! Oh my god.
Mesa de something.
La Mesita del Comedor.
Thank you.
And which one of us has been doing Spanish Duolingo for
I've
several
been
years?
doing it for 3 years so I can understand Spanish, not so I can
Fair
speak it.
enough.
I am Peggy Hill.
Have any of you
Yo
seen
hablo
The Coffee
español.
Table?
Okay. One of the best movies of this year.
The Coffee Table, if you have often heard people talk about the fact that there's a thin line between horror and comedy and never quite understood what they mean, see that movie. There's a scene in that movie that became so uncomfortable I had to turn it off and walk away for 20 minutes before I
Another
could come
time
back.
that JD was
It's-
essentially live
Jesus.
tweeting me.
The movie, like, I knew exactly what was gonna happen within like the first 5 minutes, and it happens in no way like I thought it was gonna happen, and it's fucked up in the most beautiful way. You have to see it. It's so good.
Well, I have to say that this might be, I don't know what you guys think of it, but a Hollywood movie that I think is successful because it's super arty is Longlegs. It's like, it's really, really good because it looks to me like the movies that we watch at festivals. And that to me is kind of good news because it means that like, that the mainstream is pushing, or the mainstream is going to be maybe a little more fun. I don't know.
Yeah, Neon had 3 films this summer with Immaculate and Longlegs and Cuckoo that are all, we're just seeing so much more of that. I made the unfortunate mistake of getting far too invested in the pre-release marketing of Longlegs. They did like a viral marketing like backstory website and everything with all of these clues and things that you could follow. And because of that, I went in expecting a much different movie than what I actually got. And I will never do that again because it's not.
That's a lie. He will absolutely do it.
Shut up.
He's done it so many times this year alone.
I didn't. Okay, fine.
Well,
Michelle.
you're stuttering.
Have you seen Strange Darling?
Strange Darling is great.
No, looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Very good.
You might have gotten this question, and maybe it's in an interview out there somewhere, but for each of you, what is your all-time favorite movie? Can you name one?
I mean, there's some that I absolutely love, but I'll just name one that I always go back to. It's kind of obscure. It's a Murnau film from 1928, I think, called Sunrise: A Song of Two Humans. Has anyone seen it?
I saw it with Louise Reiner in Hollywood, right before she passed away.
Wow.
I think that's her name, Louise Reiner. The German actress.
I don't know who.
Yeah, she's the lead.
Oh.
Wow.
She's the lead?
Yeah, I think she was, at the time, she was the oldest surviving Oscar winner. Either for that movie
Oh,
or
is
the
that
follow-up.
her?
Yeah.
Wow.
She was there. She was 90 something.
That's insane.
I'm gonna go with a movie that you probably know, The Innocents, out of Norway.
Oh, yes.
Has anybody seen The
Yeah,
Innocents?
the girls. The
Yes.
Yeah, oh, the kids.
Because to me, that's also a
Masterpiece. It's kids, and they all are impeccable, and the story is like brutal, is what we like to say. It's as beautiful as it is brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did that for the first year of the podcast. It was one of the first ones that I believe we were a little bit divided on. JD is a little impatient with his stories sometimes. If you go a little bit too slow, it's not necessarily my flavor. But I do remember the film, and it's fucking heavy.
It's slow.
If you like them a little bleak, it's.
I do like them.
Yeah,
I'll tell you one more that I like.
Yes.
The Proposition.
Oh.
The Proposition.
Nick Cave wrote it.
Oh, okay.
Has anybody seen it out there?
I have not.
Did you like it or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's so dirty and real and honest. Guy Pearce.
Yeah, the Western.
And there's flies in it relentlessly. Oh, it's fantastic.
I have so many movies to go home and watch. This is exciting.
Michelle, but you already watched so many movies.
Yeah, at least 60 every month. That is my goal post.
Yeah.
You know this. Yes. I have a spreadsheet now because he encouraged me to start one, and I'm a crazy person. So now I have a spreadsheet where I track, and as long as I hit 60 lines on the spreadsheet, it's a good month.
That's beautiful.
Watch a lot of media.
Anything else anybody would like to ask John and Toby? Pear's got another. Pear, is this about prop
Now I'm going
guns?
through all the technical things that we've done wrong.
Pear, I'm going to regret inviting you.
So as far as I remember, we're talking about Hellhole being more comedic, and so for the longest time, a lot that got me into, say, like the horror comedy genre is, obviously Bruce Campbell. So like Army of Darkness and Bubba Hotep, I think, is my favorite of what he's done. Do you have like a specific like comedy horror mashup that really would like I don't know, bring its way into kind of like anything that you do in the future?
That's a great one. I mean, I know my favorite horror comedy. Do you know yours, Tobe?
Not yet.
Is American Werewolf in London. Mm-hmm. But I also have to say that I think horror, like one of our problems, like I think Where the Devil Roams, like a lot of things that I think are funny, most people don't think are funny. Like this summer we put on Midsommar. My mother wanted to hang out with us, and she was like, I want to watch a movie that you guys like. And I was like, and we're flipping through, and we're like, oh, well, this is a good one. This is a perfect one. And we start, and I'm laughing immediately at the suicide, because it's all to me, and I'm not, I don't. It's funny to me. And she looks at me, and she's like, what are you laughing at? And I was like, that. And she's like, but it's so not funny. I'm like, no, it's very funny. And I think that it relates to what you were saying about the horror community. But I also think that, not to bring this back to things like cancer, when I had cancer, my nurse said to me, there's the best way to survive is to laugh.
Yeah.
And I was like, ha, 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 ha. And I really think that dark humor has only blossomed since then, and why I've really turned to horror for my laughs. And it's not laughs because I'm laughing at people's misery. I'm laughing because I'm laughing at my misery.
Right.
And we're all laughing together at our misery. So I think that my answer is going to be that horror is quite funny to me.
I'll just say real fast, I love Young Frankenstein. And there's a film that will be coming out, that it was on the festival circuit, called Chainsaws Were Singing.
Yes, that's on my watch list.
And
I haven't seen it yet.
Estonia, and it's really fun.
Good.
It's hysterical.
I'm excited for that one.
Hundreds of Beavers is also amazing.
Hundreds of Beavers is one of my favorite movies from this year.
It's
oh my god.
genius.
It's wild
very
that you
funny.
just said that because I was literally about to say, didn't I just read recently that one of you was talking about Hundreds of Beavers? Because I know
talked about
Michelle loves it. Yeah.
Michelle in review.
I was gonna mention
this past
it,
month
yeah.
Because I was like, I didn't expect that, and a lot of it was filmed in Wisconsin.
I hope
or
you're all
Michigan,
taking
I don't
notes.
remember, but
That's right.
yeah, and like Hundreds of Beavers is like if you love Bugs Bunny cartoons, it is clearly made by people who love like Tex Avery and the other guy whose name
Mel
Trumbo
Blanc.
reminded me of when I talked to you about this.
Chuck Jones, yeah,
thank
that's
you.
the one.
And the famous black and white stunt guy. Not Charlie Chaplin, but
Buster Keaton.
It's very Buster Keaton.
It's so funny. It's one of the funniest movies I've
I also-
ever seen.
I must pause for just a moment and be like, there's a small part of me, it's the last remaining bit of a film student in the back of my brain that's like, how fuck did people who made these movies have to ask who the black and white stunt guy was? How did that name not just come to him? Goddamn, the world is a fun place, for sure. Any other questions, anything anybody wants to ask before we wrap things up? No? All right.
Pear, you stay seated.
Any last words, guys?
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah, big round. John, go
I
ahead.
just want to say this will be a night that Toby and I will remember the rest of our lives, and we really want to thank you guys for making it. It's so nice of you.
Thank you as well. Big round of applause for John and Toby. Thank you all so much for coming out and being a part of this. We're going to try to do more stuff like this in the future. So keep your eyes peeled. Yeah, we are. It's the news to Michelle. But no,
This is how I find out about things.
Because here's the thing, and again, thank you. What a lot of people might not realize is Toby and Joe Yannick at Yellow Veil Pictures made this whole thing so easy. And they were all just gung-ho. Like, I sent one email and everybody was like, yeah, that sounds rad, let's do it. And I'm super stoked that we got to do something like this. And I hope we get to do some more stuff and bring you guys back around.
JD, I feel like there's only one thing left to say.
Just one more time. And any last words, John?
Thank you.
All right.
For doing this.
Well, if there's nothing left to say, then say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
That's how we end all of our episodes. It was a dumb. She did it the very first time, and I was like, "Great! Now we're gonna have to do that every single time now for the rest of the show."
It will always be fun.
For more horror content, visit WeWatchShutter.com, where you'll find our world-famous patent-pending Ghoul blog and Squelch files, as well as a schedule of upcoming episodes. Find us on social media at WeWatchShutter on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I guess Twitter if you're still doing that for whatever reason. You can email us. mail@WeWatchShutter.com is the address. mail@WeWatchShutter.com. You can even call and leave us a voicemail, 701-566-9510. No, really. 701-566-9510. Give it a shot, see what happens. We Watch Shutter is a production of Rat Factory Media.